Hi there Waltineers, I'm Jack and this is DSNY Newscast, and earlier this week I was at the Magic Kingdom with my family saying one final goodbye to the current version of Country Bear Jamboree. And whilst I was there, bidding a fond farewell to the bears for quite a few months, as it's about to undergo a refurbishment that will see the new updated show open later this year in summer, I thought to myself, why not also wander on over and take a look at the latest going on with Tiana's Bayou adventure, as it's been quite a while since the last time I spoke about it on this channel. And needless to say, there's quite a few things which I want to discuss with all of you. And some of it you might agree with and some of it you might disagree with, but nevertheless, let's talk about it. As you see, from what I saw being there in person, I'm actually pretty impressed with the level of the exterior attraction theming. And look, sometimes it's all too easy to prejudge something pretty harshly based upon what we see on social media. But having seen it in person with my own eyes, I can honestly say that it was better than what I had expected. As there's definitely a lot of attention to detail within the theming, the attraction is actually grounding it in some sort of reality, which I think is a good move from the standpoint of the rest of Frontierland is very authentic in terms of its theming as well. But I know that just by voicing that opinion on just the exterior of the attraction, obviously we don't know what the interior looks like because we haven't seen much of it, but just the exterior of the attraction, I know just by voicing that opinion, I'm going to receive some pushback. And that actually brings me to my next point, and that is I want to talk about the general discourse surrounding this entire attraction project, as it's been polarising to say the least. And right from the very beginning it's been polarising, and I think that's a byproduct of Disney's own decision to do this whole two birds with one stone strategy when it comes to removing Splash Mountain. And in many ways I actually think it's done Tiana's Bayou adventure a kind of disservice, as a lot of people are going to compare Tiana's first ride to something that they have a lot of emotional attachment to in Splash Mountain. And so instead of looking at it as a brand new attraction and giving it its own assessment when they actually ride it, they're going to constantly be comparing it to Splash Mountain. And as I said back in 2020, I actually think a better way to do this would have been to re-theme Splash Mountain and take out the Tized Song of the South and re-theme it to Western River Expedition. And Tiana was definitely deserving of her own original attraction, which would have had a ride system that would have been perfectly fitted to her story, instead of just giving Tiana a re-themed log flume. And I think that would have been a much better way of going about it, as then that way we'd have got two attractions instead of just one. But having said all of that, personally speaking, I have very fond memories of Splash Mountain. I thought the music was fantastic, the comedic gags were always great, and obviously it always delivered on the thrill. But Tiana's Bayou adventure is going to have some fantastic music, it's going to have some cutting edge animatronics, and obviously it's going to have the same exact ride layout and obviously the same exact thrill level as well. And so I'm going to be going into it with an open mind to give it a fair chance when it opens later this year. But then we come to the next big topic surrounding Tiana's Bayou adventure, and that is a lot of people say it doesn't thematically fit within Frontierland. And I was certainly in that camp early on, saying that, they should have its own New Orleans section of Frontierland. I actually said back in 2020 they should make kind of a New Orleans corner to Frontierland. But it dawned on me the other day when I was stood in front of the attraction that Tiana's Bayou adventure actually does fit within Frontierland. And the reason for that is that Frontierland is so much more than just about desert plains and rock work and things like that. Frontierland is really about the American frontier and westward expansion. And when did westward expansion begin? It began in 1803 with Thomas Jefferson and, you guessed it, the Louisiana Purchase. But it actually is better than just that, as the layout also makes a lot of sense. As obviously Liberty Square is the birth of America, 1776. That's what that time frame is meant to be representing around there in Liberty Square. And then geographically speaking, it's not just heading west in terms of the layout of the Magic Kingdom, but we're heading west of Philadelphia. As when you enter Frontierland, the first attraction that you'll come across is the Country Bear Jamboree that has a log cabin exterior reminiscent of the Tennessee Smoky Mountain region, and we know from the Country Bears movie from the 2000s that Grizzly Hall was located in Pendleton, Tennessee, and we know Tennessee gained statehood in 1796. And so then, metaphorically following the history of westward expansion, we then come to the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, which does geographically place Tiana's Bayou adventure in the correct position. But obviously, Tiana's storyline is set in the 1920s. And then taking this whole thing to its logical conclusion, as Frontierland tracks even more westward, we then come to the history of the Mexican Cession of 1848, when Utah and Arizona territories joined the US. And obviously Big Thunder Mountain is themed after Bryce Canyon and Monument Valley, which are located in those two states. And so in many ways, by adding a Louisiana section to Frontierland, it actually makes it more historically accurate and tells a better story throughout Frontierland of westward expansion of the American frontier. And then the other thing to talk about here is that when Frontierland was a concept being conceived for Disneyland in 1955, it was used as a way to promote and integrate Davy Crockett, this huge pop culture sensation that was on TV at the time, within Disneyland, and really promote it in a big way within Disneyland. And Davy Crockett as a TV show, we all know about Davy Crockett and the Alamo and stuff like that, but it's not just all desert plains and rock work and stuff like that. In actual fact, if you watch the TV show on Disney Plus, it's filled full of these lush landscapes, very similar in a way to Tiana's Bayou adventure. And also, there's an episode called Davy Crockett and the River Pirates, where there was even a keelboat race to New Orleans within the episode. And then that brings me to the next topic, and that is the idea of retheming Frontierland to make it more Louisiana-ish. And I personally can't see Disney doing this, as the exteriors to the rest of Frontierland leading up to Tiana's Bayou adventure are very elaborately themed. Almost to a point where if they were to retheme them, it would be a huge project and it would need an awful lot of investment. And if Disney is, being pretty tight with their budgets at the moment, and they're only wanting to do things that will have a return on investment, then retheming the exterior of buildings like, the shooting range and Pecos bills and stuff like that won't necessarily have the greatest return on investment, as it's not going to, bring any more people in to see the rethemed buildings. And so I'm a little bit skeptical about retheming all of the buildings around there, especially Country Bear Jamboree. If that's staying as it is right now, themed around Tennessee and the bluegrass, rockabilly kind of country music, then you kind of need to keep the rest of the theming around it the same, otherwise it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. But that does leave the interesting dilemma of what's going to go on with Pecos Bill, as obviously this is another one of these IPs which is somewhat problematic for Disney, and they want to remove it from the parks, and so they're going to retheme Pecos Bill eventually within the parks. I even said that back in 2020 that it wasn't long for this world and they need to retheme it to probably a Tiana's Palace. But I thought about it the other day, whilst they're doing the Country Bear Jamboree retheme, it would make a lot of sense if they just closed down Pecos Bill as well, considering it's part of the same building, and maybe even do it as a Hungry Bear restaurant clone from what we see over in Disneyland, as then that way you can tie the new Country Bear show in with the restaurant, and at the end of the show even do something like, go grab some grub at the end of the show and have the two things work together. I think that would be a great way of retheming Pecos Bill without having to do a massive retheme to it, but change just the theme of it from Pecos Bill to the Country Bears, and I think a lot of people would like that. Although it does seem more likely that we'll eventually get a Tiana's Palace retheme instead, along with the Golden Oak Outpost being rethemed as well as part of the whole Tiana Bayou Adventure corner of Frontierland. But anyway, with all that being said for today, it's over to you, Waltineers. I would love to know, what are your thoughts and opinions on everything I've said today? Do you agree with some of what I said? Do you disagree with certain elements of it? I would like to hear it all down below in the comments section. Are you getting a little bit more excited to see what Tiana's Bayou adventure is going to be like, and what do you think about Frontierland in general? I saw a video by Offhand Disney recently talking about how Beyond Big Thunder might be all about the new Frontierland, like a new Fantasyland kind of thing, and I certainly think Darlin has a very good idea there if they were to expand Frontierland out that way. Continue the westward expansion kind of idea, and it would kind of tie everything in. I think that's a really good idea by Offhand Disney there, so go check out his video as well. And obviously if you've enjoyed this video for today, then be sure to give this video a massive thumbs up, subscribe down below, check out the rest of the videos on the channel, and I'd also like to give a massive shout out to the official Waltineer Club over on Patreon for helping support this channel. And as you can see here, special shout out to the Waltineer Gold members that you can see on the screen, and Waltineer Diamond member Kyle Mahan. And with all of that being said for today, I've been Jack, you've been you, and I'll see you real soon.